Africa begins to roll out the first phase of the World Malaria Vaccine Program thanks to a WHO support. Nigerian medical and dental students who were studying in Ukraine are worried after the country's dental and medical council says it will not accept degrees from Ukrainian university obtained from 2022. And the growing food insecurity in Afghanistan is adversely affecting citizens 1 year after the United States withdrawal. Well, this and more coming ahead on The World Today. Hello, this is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. Many thanks for joining us. I am Amadou Kante and now the news in detail. Now, African countries are set to roll out the world's first malaria vaccine as part of efforts to eradicate the disease in the continent. The World Health Organization has renewed its commitment to lobby for more financial support for the program's implementation with a view to overcome the deadly disease. The malaria vaccine has been described as a historic breakthrough in the battle against the disease, especially in Africa. Let's have more details of that in this report.
The application opening window comes after the World Health Organization's recommendation for wider routine use of the malaria vaccine in October 2021 and a decision by Gavi board to approve an initial investment of $155.7 million.
With this first step that we are excited that we are beginning a very important journey for protecting the children in Africa. And we hope that someday will come where malaria will not be a problem that causes many lives to be lost and creates a lot of morbidity.
The second window of the rollout, which will open at the end of the year, will be open to other African countries with moderate to high transmission of malaria.
Lives are at stake, and I can't stress enough the need for increased attention from donors, from health leaders, and manufacturers. WHO is fully committed to working with partners to find ways in which to boost manufacturing capacity, increase vaccine access, and ultimately change the trajectory of this devastating disease.
According to WHO, the introduction of the malaria vaccine will build on already existing prevention programs to drive down child mortality in Africa.
As a malariologist who has devoted my professional life to fighting malaria, I do recognize this long-awaited malaria vaccine for children as a breakthrough for science, child health, and malaria control.
According to Gavi, demand will be greater than volumes and production will take time to increase.
African countries intensify efforts to fight against malaria in the continent. Now, moving on, coming back home, the former lead counsel of the TRC, Esam Baifal, has expressed regret over what he described as an ugly incident between himself and Babaja, known as Chapacholi. In a short statement, the former presidential aspirant says he is deeply saddened by the incident and found himself in such a troubled situation. According to him, as this has agitated too many people and divided many politically, he sincerely regretted that he was in the subject of the whole saga. As a leader and a devoted Muslim, I hold firmly onto the virtues of forgiveness. Babaja or Chapacholi has apologized to me and asked for forgiveness. I have forgiven him. I am now prepared to move on with my life and business. I know that many before me have suffered worst. I am certain that many more will come my way for as long as I continue to be concerned about the matters that affect our people, the statement added. Esa Fall further indicates that he has preserved against jeers and insult all along and will continue to do so in complete decorum and decency. He said he is leaving the matter behind and will not talk to the press about it and craves for indulgence and respect of his position. Moving on, elsewhere in the continent, Nigerian medical and dental students who were repatriated from Ukraine amidst the ongoing conflict are in a state of limbo after the country's medical council says it will not accept dental from Ukrainian university obtained from 2022. Now, this, according to the MDCN, is due to the ongoing war in Ukraine that has seen many of its higher institutions closed for physical classes, saying the returned citizens are not properly trained. Some of the students who have, of course, have expressed their distress. Let's have more details of that in this report.
It's been 6 years of rigorous training for 25-year-old medical student Amina Aminu. She was set to take her final exams just before the Russian-Ukraine crisis broke out. She returned hoping to complete her exams online and begin her medical practice at home in Nigeria. But the professional regulatory body says that online medical trainings fall short of the accepted standards.
It was very heartbroken for me. The day that I got to see that news, I was confused at first. We are trapped, because we can't even move on and do something else. We have to get our license, and there's so many of us.
Nigerian students who studied in Ukraine believe there's more to the council's decision.
MDCN charges 130,000 naira for the examination, and you have to pay $130 to a company. So you are paying two different money that we don't have, because most of the students that went abroad to study, they are children of the poor. They were sponsored by KB state government, Yobe, Borno, Gombe, and Bauchi.
There were over 4,000 Nigerian students studying in Ukraine. Most of them are medical students. They were forced to continue their classes online. But the regulatory body insists that medical practitioners require hands-on training, which the virtual learning space cannot offer. And the nation's medical association agrees.
However stringent the measures are, they should be accepted, because human lives are not things you toy with. So unfortunately, the war is there, but the fact is that the war has disrupted this training. So these doctors or these students, coming back have not been properly trained.
Nigeria has been battling a brain drain in its health sector. In the past 2 years, more than 9,000 medical professionals have relocated to the UK, Canada, and the US. The professional gap continues to widen as more health workers seek greener pastures abroad. Many here are worried that thousands of students like Amina wouldn't be able to fill that gap anytime soon.
You are watching the World Today News Bulletin coming to you live from our studios in Banjul. And from the report here in Nigeria, we now take a break and come back shortly. Stay with us, we'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Eyeafrica TV and you are watching the World Today News Bulletin. And let's now look at the rest of the stories. Now, 2 missiles on Saturday hit Ukraine's Black Sea port of Odessa hours after the signing of UN-backed deal with Russia in Istanbul. And of course, Turkey clearing the way for grain export to resume in the Black Sea ports. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres, speaking at the signing ceremony on Friday, remarked that the agreement is a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needs it. Moses Imendi has the details in this report.
Moscow and Kiev signed a deal brokered by the United Nations to reopen grain exports from Ukraine's Black Sea ports yesterday. However, the fulfillment of the agreement could now be on the balance after 2 missiles hit Ukraine's port of Odessa today. The blast comes a day after the 2 countries signed a deal for Black Sea ports to resume grain exports. They have been locked in war since February. A Russian blockade in the Black Sea deterred grain exports, thereby exposing millions of people worldwide to acute hunger. In spite of their differences, the warring countries yesterday struck an agreement for the exportation of blockaded grains to reopen as well as facilitate Russian grain and fertilizer exports. The deal stipulates that Russia must not target ports while grain shipments were in transit, and commercial food from 3 Ukrainian ports will be granted passage in the Black Sea. Antonio Guterres, UN Secretary General, described the deal as a beacon of hope, but the development now seems to suffer blow with a fresh missile attack on the Odessa port.
Today, there is a beacon on the Black Sea, a beacon of hope, a beacon of possibility, a beacon of relief in a world that needs it more than ever. You have overcome obstacles and put aside differences to pave the way for an initiative that will serve the common interests of all. Promoting the welfare of humanity has been the driving force of these talks.
He described the Ukraine war as a true nightmare as he hopes for the agreement to address bankruptcy and vulnerability of developing countries.
This is an agreement for the world. It will bring relief for developing countries on the edge of bankruptcy and the most vulnerable people on the edge of famine. And it will help stabilize global food prices, which were already at record levels even before the war, a true nightmare for developing countries.
Back in June, the Senegalese president and chairperson of the AU, Macky Sall, had an audience with Putin in the Russian city of Sochi, where negotiations to clear the way for stocks of cereals and fertilizer to Africa featured. The grain exports agreement seeks to stabilize surging food and fuel prices worldwide, as well as mitigate famine affecting millions across the globe. The attack has been attributed to Russia, but Moscow, however, denied involvement. Observers may now wonder, could the fresh attack signal a wreckage of the grain exports deal signed yesterday? Moses Imendi, Eyeafrica News.
And from the report there on to our final story now. Afghanistan nationals continue to wallow up in abject poverty 1 year after the United States withdrew its troops from the war-torn country. High inflation triggered by increasing price of food commodities has left citizens worried about the prevailing economic situation. Local authorities, however, attributed the acute humanitarian situation to the international sanctions against the Asian country. Here's more details of that in this report.
It is a very windy and dusty day here in Kabul. And a lot has changed in this nation over the past year since the U.S. had a very hurried and chaotic withdrawal from this nation, and the Taliban swept into power with their hardline government in a matter of days. But this is a nation that has been characterized by abject poverty, and it has really gone from bad to worse. And hunger is a critical problem right now. More than 95% of the people in this nation aren't getting enough to eat, and 50% are facing what the United Nations calls acute hunger. There is security. People aren't nearly as worried about being robbed or bombings or random shootings. But they say that security has come at a cost.
There is peace and security, but there is no business. People's economic situation is bad.
There is no hope. May God have His mercy on the poor people. The prices have gone up. The shop rents are high. There is no work, no business. We are baffled.
The Taliban government is really spreading blame and says a lot of the problem rests at the feet of those they call occupiers and oppressors, meaning the United States. The U.S. has indicated it would consider working with the Taliban government, but only under certain conditions. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs says one country should never tell another country how to operate.
The humanitarian situation was exacerbated. It pre-existed. So when we came to power, it was exacerbated by the automatic sanctions that were leveled against Afghanistan. And these are the types of sanctions that not even Russia faces, not even Iran faces. So we were cut off from the international SWIFT system. We couldn't do any international transactions.
And that report from Afghanistan eventually brings us to the end of this news edition. But for more details on this and other stories, as always, as ever, you can visit on our website on Eyeafrica.tv. But for now, many thanks for the pleasure of your company. Thanks for watching, and do have a pleasant evening. Bye for now.